March 1962, 11:23 a.m. In Harlem's most prestigious barber shop, Barber Marcus's hand was trembling. From the outside, it might seem strange for a barber's hand to shake, but the man whose neck he was bringing the razor to was Bumpy Johnson. As Marcus held the razor over Bumpy Johnson's neck, he knew that one wrong move could mean the end of his life. But what Marcus didn't know was this. Bumpy Johnson was supposed to die that morning. More precisely, his death had been planned. 2 weeks earlier, Agent Richardson from the FBI had visited Marcus with an offer that seemed very easy for him to accept. The offer was simple. While shaving Bumpy, go a little deeper with your razor, cut the carotid artery, make it look like an accident. In return, $25,000 and a new identity. Marcus had immediately refused because he had a family. But the FBI hadn't given up. The next day, news came from his daughter's school. Maria's school principal had called him and said, "Maria's scholarship is being canceled." The reason seemed unclear, but why it happened was obvious. Marcus had pretended not to understand. But the message was clear. Now with the razor at Bumpy's neck, Marcus had to make a decision. Would he make this morning the last morning of his life, or would he bring about his own end? Who was Bumpy Johnson? In 1962, he was the undisputed king of Harlem. He controlled the numbers racket, had influence in police corridors, and neighborhood residents addressed him as Mr. Johnson. Everyone from firefighters to singers, from doctors to barbers, respected him, but behind this respect was blood. A lot of blood. Bumpy's rise had begun in the 1930s. At that time, Dutch Schultz ruled Harlem. Schultz was a white gangster who exploited Harlem. He controlled the streets, made millions from the numbers game, and made neighborhood residents feel like strangers in their own territory. Bumpy was young, angry, and determined. He applied a systematic strategy to take over the numbers business. First, he neutralized Schultz's men one by one. Then he won the trust of neighborhood residents. He wasn't giving money. He was erasing debt. He donated books to schools and distributed food to poor families. Every move was calculated. Every good deed was strategic. The people of Harlem began to love Bumpy because he was the only person protecting them. The police were their enemy. The municipality ignored them. White gangsters exploited them. But Bumpy listened to them. When Schultz was killed in 1940, Bumpy was already the real owner of Harlem. But this was just the beginning. By the 1950s, Bumpy's empire had reached enormous proportions. The numbers game brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars daily. Every business in Harlem showed him respect. Police officers reported to him. The mayor made appointments to meet with him. But this power had begun to attract the FBI's attention. Edgar Hoover described Bumpy Johnson in his files as America's most dangerous Negro criminal, and Hoover knew effective ways to eliminate people he considered dangerous. Direct assassination was too risky. Legal cases took too long. But psychological warfare, that was a completely different level. When Agent Richardson approached Marcus, he had prepared for 3 months. Marcus's financial situation, his daughter's education, his family's weak points, daily routines, fears, hopes. He knew everything. His file was about 47 pages. Marcus Patterson, 52 years old, born in Georgia, migrated to Harlem in 1935. His wife had succumbed to cancer in 1958. His only daughter, Maria, 16 years old, a brilliant student aiming for Columbia University. Marcus's only goal was for his daughter to become a university graduate. He was ready to make any sacrifice for this. The FBI knew this. During the shave, Bumpy was silent. But silence didn't mean safety. Bumpy's silences were his most dangerous moments. Because that's when he was thinking, calculating, observing. Marcus kept his razor over Bumpy's carotid artery. Too long. 1 second too long. In a normal shave, this movement would be automatic. But today Marcus was hesitating. That was enough. Bumpy understood everything. Is something wrong, Marcus? Bumpy's voice was low and calm, but that calmness frightened Marcus. Bumpy Johnson's calmness was like the silence that comes before a storm. Marcus's hand trembled even more strongly. No, Mr. Johnson. Everything's normal. But nothing about Bumpy Johnson was normal. Nothing stayed hidden from that man. Last week, Bumpy's security chief Willie the Hawk Williams had brought an unusual report to the office. FBI agents were walking around the neighborhood too much, talking to shop owners, asking strange questions. Who worked with whom? Who was friends with whom? Who trusted whom? These questions had raised suspicions. 2 days ago, police officer Bobby Henderson, who worked in Bumpy's information network, had given information about an order from the FBI. A list of important businesses in Harlem was being compiled. Detailed research was being done on their owners, their family situations, financial problems. Weak points were being identified. A day ago, Bumpy's lawyer Samuel Cohen had reported that he had visited the FBI office. Agents had asked him questions about Bumpy's daily routines, especially focusing on the places he regularly visited. Bumpy had put all the pieces together. The FBI was approaching him, but not directly, through the people around him. They were trying to turn the people he trusted into weapons. This morning, coming to the barber shop, Bumpy had noticed a small detail at the door. Marcus would open his shop door the same way every morning, put out the advertising sign, then turn on the radio inside, a routine that hadn't changed for 8 years. Today the sign had been placed upside down. The radio hadn't been turned on either. This was the kind of mistake an anxious man would make. A man whose mind was elsewhere. Sitting in the barber chair, Bumpy was observing Marcus in the mirror. A man who had been barbering for 30 years shouldn't have a trembling hand. But Marcus's hand was trembling. Also, Marcus kept looking outside, as if he was waiting for someone. And he shouldn't be waiting for anyone during his daughter's school hours. Marcus, Bumpy spoke slowly. How's your daughter? The question was innocent. But Marcus's face went pale, immediately pale, as if Bumpy had put his greatest fear into words. Fine, Mr. Johnson. Maria is very well. His voice trembled. Bumpy had been dealing with people for 30 years. He recognized the sound of fear. How's school? Is her scholarship continuing? Marcus completely stopped his raise. His hand remained motionless. At Bumpy's neck, seconds passed. Bumpy could see Marcus's eyes in the mirror. Fear, desperation, guilt. Yes, Mr. Johnson. Everything's fine. A lie. A clear lie. The desperation in Marcus's voice. The panic in his eyes. The trembling in his hand. Everything was a lie. Bumpy Johnson understood everything at that moment. The FBI had threatened Marcus. His daughter's scholarship had probably been canceled, or a cancellation threat had been received. The FBI had made Marcus an offer. Money, security, a new life in exchange for a small favor. And now Marcus was under orders to kill Bumpy. The razor was at his neck. One movement would be enough. The FBI plan was perfect. No one would suspect. A barber accident. These things happen. But Bumpy didn't stop this. Instead of stopping it, he decided to deepen it further, because this was the perfect time to give the FBI an unforgettable lesson. Marcus, there was no anger in Bumpy's voice. Where did you stop before coming here this morning? Marcus's hand was completely trembling now. The razor was in a very dangerous position. Nowhere, Mr. Johnson. I came straight here from home. Another lie. Bumpy had had Marcus followed that morning. After leaving home, Marcus had stopped at a phone booth and talked for 5 minutes. Then he had walked very slowly, as if he was killing time. Did you talk to Agent Richardson? Marcus dropped his razor. The sound it made when the metal hit the floor filled the room. It was the kind of sound that stopped the spinning world. Bumpy stood up, with soap foam on his face. He looked at Marcus in the mirror. Marcus had collapsed to the floor, his eyes filled with terror. "You were supposed to kill me, weren't you?" Marcus was in tears now. "Mr. Johnson, my daughter, scholarship." "I know." Bumpy cleaned his face with the towel in his hand. The movement was calm and controlled, as if neutralizing a death threat was part of his daily routine. "They offered in exchange for your daughter's university scholarship. New identity, a safe life, far away." Marcus raised his head in amazement. How? "Marcus, I'm Bumpy Johnson. Is it surprising that I know every move of the FBI? I already knew before you even encountered this offer." Bumpy took an envelope from his pocket. He placed it in front of Marcus. "Maria's university scholarship was restored this morning. The school principal will call in 50. He'll apologize. He'll say it was an administrative error. Also, there's $5,000 in the envelope, for your daughter's other expenses." Marcus was still sitting on the floor, unable to understand what was happening. "But why? How?" "Because you're my barber, Marcus. For 8 years, you're my person, and I protect my people. I won't let the FBI use you." Bumpy walked to the door. Then he turned around. "Call Agent Richardson. Tell him that Bumpy Johnson knows the FBI's games. Tell him that they can't buy anyone in Harlem. And tell him that if he tries something like this again, the consequences will be much more severe." Marcus was still in shock. "Where can I find Agent Richardson?" Bumpy smiled. A cold, calculated smile. "Don't worry. He'll find you. Because they're in very big trouble right now. Their plan has been exposed. And Hoover doesn't forgive failed operations." As he left through the door, Bumpy's last words were, "I'll come again tomorrow. Same time. And Marcus, this time your razor shouldn't tremble. Because no one can threaten you anymore." That afternoon, Agent Richardson left the FBI New York office. "Unsuitable for duty" was written in his file. He was transferred to Washington. It seemed like a promotion, but everyone at the FBI knew the truth. Richardson had failed, and Hoover didn't leave failures unpunished. Maria's scholarship was restored that day. Marcus never saw FBI agents again. But most importantly, Marcus learned what real power was that day. Real power wasn't a weapon. Real power was knowledge. It was knowing your enemy's decisions before they decided to make a move. Bumpy Johnson had given this message to the FBI. "I determine the rules of the game in Harlem. You are a guest here. And being a guest doesn't recognize rules." The following week, the FBI's Harlem operation was completely stopped. Hoover decided that a different approach was needed for Bumpy Johnson. Direct confrontation wasn't working. This man was always one step ahead. From 1962 to 1968, the FBI never dared to touch Bumpy Johnson again, because what they knew was this. This man could change not the rules of the game, but the game itself. Marcus could never forget that morning. Even after Bumpy died, 40 years later, he would tell this story to Maria. "My daughter," he had said, "that day I learned what real power is. Real power isn't killing your enemies. It's controlling them without needing to kill them." Because that morning, Marcus understood. Bumpy Johnson wasn't just the king of Harlem. He was proof that he wasn't for sale.